then it's like a 3, 2, 1, whatever.
It says no. It says the Hangouts live. That's on Instagram. That it's 3, 2, 1.
Well, from the ground up, happy Halloween, all you filthy, dirty animals out there.
Oh, okay. I thought that was Christmas.
Don't worry about it. But it's today we have David from Tikisgeckos. So, David, if you could just give us a little overview of what you work with.
Yeah, so basically, I specialize in breeding most of the New Caledonian geckos. That's going to be the crested geckos, the gargoyle geckos. I also work with the leachianas. But besides the geckos, we also do a lot of like chameleons and other lizards. Pretty much anything that people could want, we could find a way to get it. We either special order it, or a lot of the stuff we breed. Blue tongue skinks too. So, you know, just like all of us reptile people, we start off with maybe 1 or 2 different species, and we start getting into a whole bunch of different things. But that's what I work with the most.
Yeah, after a little while, I mean, you get bored with the same thing happening over and over again. So as far as geckos go, I know my opinion on why crested geckos are probably like the best pets you could have as far as for first-time reptile people.
Yeah. Can we ask how we got started first? That's a background. We gotta go back.
So I want to ask, why do you think a crested gecko is the best reptile, the first pet reptile or whatever?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I think is because of how easy they are to care for. Because of how soft they are. A lot of people, especially at the reptile shows, when they hold the gecko for the first time, that's when you see their eyes light up and they're like, oh man, I never knew it was this soft. Because they feel almost like suede or like velvet almost. And I think the last reason would be because of the variety of the patterns and colors. That always attracts a lot of people, just like with any other reptile, really, leopard geckos, ball pythons. I think that's why they're so popular too, because just so much variety in morphs and coloration, and there's a little bit of something for everybody.
And not to mention, you can keep them pretty much room temperature and feed them from a powdered mixture. So exactly. I mean, that is the easiest thing you could do for a reptile.
Sounds like a dog.
You don't have to deal with
sounds like taking care of a dog
or anything like
room
that.
temp and give them.
I mean, you got to keep the humidity up and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's so easy. When it comes to like lizards, I always tell people it is the easiest lizard to keep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mess with lizards because they are harder to keep, but I did keep cresteds for a little while, but that came and went. But so
can we do my question now? I just want. Well, I mean, we usually start when we have a guest. Like, tell us, like, how'd you get into reptiles? Was it like from when you were a kid? Like, how did you start all of this?
Well, ever since I was a little kid, I mean, like all of us, I had a fascination for animals and dinosaurs. And actually, when I was little, I used to have like all the little toy dinosaurs, and I used to know every single name. Don't ask me that now because I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, I just had a fascination with reptiles, and I'm originally from Venezuela. And when I moved here, like people over there don't keep reptiles like they do here. So when I moved here, I saw like a lot of people kept, like bearded dragons, iguanas, and all these things. And my aunt actually married an American guy that he bred snakes. He bred boas and a couple other pythons, like Burmese pythons and everything. So he took me to my first reptile show. And I just remember like all the different species. You go crazy when you first go to a reptile show as a kid, especially. And I asked my mom for an iguana. I wanted an iguana. They ended up getting me a bearded dragon, and that just, that started the whole thing. That was like the snowball effect. After I got my bearded dragon, I started looking into different reptiles. Eventually, I came across the crested gecko. Also, I might have been like 12 or so. So I ended up saving up for one. I did my research. I got one. And back then, we used to feed the baby food with we used to just add calcium to the baby food. And Rapache, the Rapache brand is
do that.
Wait, like formula, baby?
No,
like Gerber.
What?
Yeah, That's what we used to feed. We just added calcium and the vitamins. We used to mix it and give it to the geckos. So we used to do that, and then Rapashi started picking up back then the diet, and yeah, man, I remember getting into it, and then I saw guys like AC Reptiles and all these guys, and I'm like, yo, are these people making a living out of this? So I started a little hobby out of it, and as I saw that I could, when I started this, I was maybe like 18 or 17. I was still in high school, and I saw that I could make a little bit of money out of it, and then I saw that people were making a living out of it. So to me, it was a no-brainer. This is what I wanted to do, you know?
I see that you started your YouTube channel like 6 years ago. Is that about the time frame as far as when you got into geckos, or was there a certain time where you kept and didn't make YouTube videos?
Yeah, no, I kept the crested geckos for a while before I made the videos. I started making the videos just I don't even know. I just started making videos. I thought it would be cool, you know, and I thought people would like to see how other people keep their geckos and stuff. But yeah, when I started, at first I just kept some crested geckos as pets, you know, and then I got out of crested geckos for like a year or two, and then I got back in, and then I started breeding them more, just as a little, you know, like any reptile hobbyist, you know, like a little project. And then I had an opportunity to buy like a 50 lot of gecko babies. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try it out as a business, and then the rest is history.
Are you coming at it from, you know, like Anthony Caponetto, like you said, what is his business name? AC Reptiles or something like that?
Yeah.
Are you going from a wholesale angle? I mean, he does some wholesale and then some designer stuff. What's your angle as far as that goes?
Well, I think both. I want to do a lot of the, like, he has the special morphs that he works with, and, you know, all the designer animals, which I want to do that as well. But I really think that the people who are making a living out of this and not struggling are the ones who are wholesaling.
Right.
You know, because, you know, you guys know it's tough to make a living out of animals, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. And people, like, it's probably taken like 5 years before you could start actually making money and not
like being comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Before you start, you know, paying back all the stuff you already bought and everything. But yeah, I think what I'm trying to do is expand into not just geckos. I also want to do a couple different other reptiles, and do maybe some wholesaling. I'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because people always tell me, like, hey, you're breeding corn snakes. All you're going to breed is $100 snakes, $150 snakes. What you don't realize is that the demand is much higher than the supply even here. Probably the same with crested geckos. So if you're, you know, producing at a wholesale level, you know, there's definitely consistent money in that, instead of always having to reinvest $20,000 in a morph for something crazy like that with ball pythons. I mean, you have a sustainable business where your product doesn't degrade by, you know, 100% after like 2 years or something, or 50% after 2 years. But what was your question going to be?
Well, we've talked about wholesaling as it relates to snakes in the past, and I know we've had different like viewpoints on wholesaling, and some people in the snake world, I feel like they think I don't know if it's less
taboo.
It's some people view it's less respected, and I'm wondering if that's true in the gecko world also.
Honestly, I don't really think about that stuff. I mean, I know that I think it comes down to how you talk to people, how you handle, you know, your business with people. I feel like there are some people that maybe they wholesale, and people think that they don't really care about the animals because they're just worried about moving animals. But at the end of the day, nobody gets into this business and succeeds in a long term because they don't care about the animals, you know.
Right.
I believe that in order to do something and be the best at it, you gotta care about it. You gotta like it. And if you don't, you know, I don't think you're gonna last. And I've seen that with a lot of people. You know, a lot of people, I mean, and it's not to, you know, to say they're wrong, or maybe they just don't realize it, but they get it like like a certain inspiration of, or like a motivation for a certain amount of time, and they want to breed animals and they think they're going to make great money at it, and then they start to see it's not that easy, and then, you know, they get out right away. But I think like, yeah, definitely, definitely some people don't see it, like they kind of downplay it a little bit, but it is what it is, you know. You can't think about what everybody thinks. You'll go nuts.
Yeah, and I think there's so many people out there who they get a collection really, really quick and get a bunch of animals way, way, way too quick. And then once one animal gets sick or something bad happens, then their motivation saps. And then, so is there any moment, I know there was for me, like when I kept ball pythons, like I had almost like a quarter of my collection at the time got sick and ultimately died, even though I spent, you know, a bunch of money trying to get the medicine and stuff like that and going to the vet. And so was there a moment like that for you where you had to push? It doesn't have to be half your animals dying or something, but is there a moment where you almost failed or thought about quitting?
Yeah, there have been moments like, I mean, I've never had, like, thankfully I've never had like a big disease in my colony where I,
knock on wood.
Yeah, for real. Like that I lose animals. Every now and then I'll lose an animal out of nowhere, an adult, and I'll be like, what the hell? But, you know, like I don't find the reason. I don't see, all the other animals are fine. The ones that were being housed with that animal were fine. So I think it's sometimes some animals die, you know. It's when you're keeping hundreds of animals that's going to happen. But no, I haven't had something like that happen yet. But I understand that that's part of it. I understand that that's part of, you know, every business, every occupation has its ups and downs. And I'm kind of, if it comes, I'm ready to, you know, take it on the chin. But yeah, I mean, certainly sometimes you think like, damn, am I going to be able to make a living out of this? Because, you know, you want to have a family and everything, and you don't know if, like, sometimes you're like, damn, like I remember, guys, the first time I did a reptile show, I mean, I was maybe like, I don't know, like maybe like 18 years old or something.
Wow, that's young.
I didn't sell one gecko. I went there 2 days, the weekend. I didn't sell one gecko. It was a small show, but still, I was like heartbroken. I was like, damn. But so those times definitely question. They test you a little bit, but I think that kind of like, I don't know, that kind of molds you into who. It makes it that much sweeter now when I'm doing well at the shows or something, or online.
Right, and I think it goes out to you being available. People don't realize they need to be available and like out there on social media and market, and people need to know who they are in order for people to buy from them.
Yeah.
So, okay, speaking of that, like we also, okay, number one, let me put out there in the beginning, I don't know shit about geckos. So my questions are going to be very, very basic. I'm going to try not to do too many basics. He knows way more than me, but I know nothing.
Kept him alive for a period of time, for sure.
But the best way, I guess, is to try to like make connections between the gecko world and the snake world, because I know like,
because you get
a little
crossover people.
So we've talked a lot about that, as far as like marketing and stuff, and kind of like the old guy versus new guy thing in that. Now, crested geckos have only been around for 20 years.
Yeah, good reason.
So thanks, Google. So do you feel like there's as much of a like old guy versus new guy technique since it's only been around for 20 years? Like,
well, I definitely see the difference between, let's say, someone like myself and then like a freaking legend like I don't know, like Hamper, Robbie Hamper. Like, these people have been breeding. They were like the pioneers of these animals. But I see the difference when it comes to like how they market their stuff and how they deal with customers and online stuff. For example, there's a guy that breeds blue-tongued skinks. His name is Ray Gerge. He is one of the biggest blue-tongued skink breeders in the United States, but he just got Facebook like maybe like this year or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and I love the guy. He's awesome. He's helped us a lot. But you could definitely see the difference. It's like some people are so old school, but I think the people, it's like anything else, man. You gotta adapt, you gotta evolve, because it does. The market, the business doesn't care. It'll leave you behind. It won't look back. And
lucky for him. Lucky for him, he's like one of the only guy doing like the northern morphs and stuff like that. So that's why he's able to survive in a place where there's a million crested gecko breeders, a million core snake breeders. That's where us doing this kind of
the
stuff
new guys
will differentiate, I guess.
Exactly, that's right, because it doesn't cut it anymore to just post some pictures online. You know, especially if you don't have a
price
following
list with no pictures.
Yeah, man, it's a different. The game is changing. It's always gonna change, but it's fun, man. Like, I like it.
Yeah, for sure. How many animals are you working with? What's the size of your collection?
Probably around like 250 adults.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but listen, the big guys, they have like 7,000 adults.
Yeah.
So I am nothing right now.
Ask your Colin a question.
Oh, well,
yeah, I mean, eventually I'll get to that point.
Why is it called colony and we call it collection?
No, I'm talking about, you had the question.
I know, but I have this question now. Why do they call it?
Because it's not the whole collection. It's just, so do you keep your geckos in colonies as far as like breeding pairs and stuff like that?
Yeah, I house them together. Usually I'll have like one male with at least 1 or 2 females. Unless I don't have a female for that male, then he'll be housed by himself. But for the most part, I'll keep the geckos together. You know, the babies, I like to, if it's like a holdback or something, I like to house it by itself, just because it's gonna be growing that much quicker if it's by itself.
And then as babies, they're all separate. I mean, do you find that they'll like drop their tail or something if you house them together? So
the thing is, if you house them together, that's fine. If they're babies and juveniles, you can house them together, but you can't mess up the feeding. If you mess up the feeding, or if you miss a day of crickets, if you're feeding like crickets every week, and then there's 1 week or 2 weeks that you miss crickets, they'll start to nip on each other's tails. So you could either get drop tails, or you could get little nips on the tails, which will heal perfectly, but it's not as doesn't look as nice.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna have a question.
No, she's just looking at you.
Because I know when I kept them, what I read was, 1.3 or 1.4, and how I kept was 1.4. But it seems like you are specifically breeding one male to one female. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. It depends. It depends on certain things. Like if I'm specifically looking to produce something, I want to know exactly where the eggs are coming from. For example, like I want to know that these eggs are female. Because if you have like 5 crested geckos in a cage, and you just find eggs in the lay box, it's like, all right, who the hell are these from? Yeah. So if I'm doing something like that, if I'm like trying to specifically breed for a certain trait, or if I'm like, if I only have one female for that male, but most of the time I try to give males at least a couple females, especially the nice ones.
Are you line breeding specific looks, or for me, when I did it, I just mixed everyone up, but that's probably the wrong way to go. I was like Dalmatian with Harlequin and whatever. Let's pop out some weird shit. But do you specifically line breed specific things for certain looks?
Well, I don't really line breed, like in terms of, I will only really line breed if I see something in particular that I want to reproduce, that I think might be something that could develop into something in the future. But for the most part, it's just selective breeding. Like I have a lot of animals from a lot of different lines, so I'll just put stuff together that I think will make really nice offspring, or that I think will like bring out the best in the offspring, basically.
That was loud.
That was.
Sorry.
I wish I had a beer, guys.
Yeah. It probably seems like we're just like chugging beers over here. You're like, what the fuck are these people doing? But yeah, it's great when you emailed me and was like, is this PG? I don't know what to do. It's like, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, no,
It's
because
very much not.
so I told you I want to make a podcast. I'm actually working on it, but I don't want it to be PG. You know, I mean, my videos, I make the videos a little more like, it's not like I'm being super, you know, PG, but I just, you know, a lot of kids watch that stuff, but the podcast is
Yeah.
gonna be like normal, you know, and I'm looking forward to making that.
We do kind of the same thing. Like my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's not PG, but it's just right.
It's just because like when I'm thinking about what I'm speaking, I'm not gonna curse as much as when it's off the top of my head and I'm just conversational.
Right.
Yeah.
But I try to be myself, but it's much harder on video than
just talking.
But dude, have you guys heard about the new YouTube policies?
They're fucking us in the asshole. That's what's happening.
Whoa, PG.
So much for PG. No, yeah, they're like, oh man, that's right. I'm kind of scared. I'm like, what the hell? What happens if you know, they don't like something you say? Did they just like switch you off air?
Well, dude, so many of our videos, like one of our videos was like sexing corn snakes. Nope, can't have the word sexing in a title. You don't.
Ball python.
Yeah, they took it away. Wouldn't give us our money for it.
Oh my god, dude.
Because it's sexing, like.
Yeah, I saw that. They emailed me all the rules, and I'm just going over this, and I'm like, oh my god, fuck, dude, that's gonna suck.
And they're gonna learn eventually. I think if someone like Facebook comes up with some type of YouTube-esque video service where you can get paid off of ads, they'll just
everyone's
obliterate
gonna switch to
YouTube
Facebook
because YouTube doesn't provide any like anything for its creators. Like Casey Neistat can't even get his videos monetized at this point, and it's like,
yeah,
that's your fucking guy, dude.
That's the thing. It's like, I don't know why you're trying to. You can't nerf the world. You can't nerf the fucking internet, bro. It's like,
yeah,
that's the whole point. It's a monster, and whatever's out there, it's out there, and kids are gonna find it if they want to. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's, I don't know. I guess we gotta be all proper now.
But they're only gonna. I feel like it's only gonna hurt them.
But podcasting, you can say whatever the fuck you want, because whether it's streaming live on YouTube, either way, I'm gonna put it on download, and if it's off of YouTube, whatever, we'll just record.
We just can't put it in the title.
Everything we want to.
Yeah. But it's just, I mean, even with like songs we put that like we know aren't copyrighted, like we get it specifically copyrighted, they'll like come back and try to fight all that.
Sometimes you get fucked.
It's just really
music,
I don't know. They're just on it a lot lately.
Well, as far as Instagram, when did you start Instagram in comparison to YouTube?
Good segue, babe. That's a great segue.
You were just going off and I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So I was just trying to reel you back in.
Well, YouTube, I started first. Instagram, I don't even know when I started. Maybe like 4 years ago, maybe. But I think I felt like I got in kind of late. But now I realized that maybe I was a little early than everybody else.
I felt the same way, but I didn't go all the way in for long enough in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I saw like, I mean, I don't remember any reptile people that were big back then when I started. But I just thought, I'm like, yo, this is perfect. Like most reptile people just want to see pictures, anyways.
Right.
So I just thought it would be a good. You know, like a good platform for us.
And then there was that, like, when Snapchat was taken over for like a year, and then Instagram got Instagram stories. That's when like everyone came back, and there was like a second boom of the Instagram thing.
Yeah, I think Snapchat is for a younger crowd right now. A lot of the people that follow us on Snapchat are like younger kids and stuff. But yeah, Instagram. I think Instagram is wonderful, man. It's the best thing ever.
So what have you done to make sure you have a shit ton more fucking followers than
us?
What have you done to differentiate yourself from all the other losers out there? Like us?
Okay. Don't call us losers.
Hey, man, we all start somewhere. But listen, I made it a thing to take quality pictures. I invested in, I mean, I did this before I had the Instagram because I wanted to post really nice pictures for online sales and stuff. So I invested in really nice camera and I was just basically uploading my pictures from my camera into my computer and then posting them on Instagram. And I just hashtag the shit out of it every single time. Every single time. What I do is basically I have on my notes on my phone.
Copy and paste.
Copy and paste. Like for the crested geckos, I have like a certain hashtag paragraph. For gargoyle geckos, for chameleons, you know, like, so that's what I just did. And I just try to like provide some people some sort of like information, something like make them want to follow you, not just because everybody has nice animals, but I mean, if I feel like if you give them some sort of value, you know, like teach them something maybe, or post some fucking cool videos, then they'll follow.
I think I need it for the captions. I never put anything. I'm just like the animal, but I should really like fucking talk to
I've
people.
noticed a lot of people put like, did you know, like, you know, random fun facts or stuff about the.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
And it's important to interact. Like, I feel like that helped me out a lot. I always interact with people, but it takes a lot of time. But you know, it is what it is. I'm always on like fucking something. If it's not Instagram, I'm answering questions on Snapchat or Instagram or some other shit. But it's always like it's constant. It never stops.
Yeah.
That's the one good thing about this podcast is like, I don't know if you can see it on your end. I don't know, but there's like a chat going on. Well, right now they're talking about something weird on the chat, but usually the chat is like, they're asking us questions like, you know, related to what we're talking about. And it's just a good way to like directly.
Like I know our followers by name and like we talk to them for real.
Yeah.
Like real people.
Right now they're talking about something called Menudo.
Followers like that too. That's the best, you know, especially when I'll meet them at a reptile show and you're like, oh shit, like, you know by a little username and like a little tiny profile picture, but when you see them it's like it's so much, it's crazy.
It's like, oh shit, you're 40 and you're
12.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you're 12. Do you think it's possible to be successful in the gecko world like without doing reptile shows?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've seen other people do it. AC Reptiles, I don't think he goes to any reptile shows.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I know it's possible, and I mean, I used to work with underground reptiles. Obviously they're not just geckos, they're like everything under the fucking sun. Yeah. But they only do Daytona, really. The Daytona show here in Florida. And they like those guys make a lot of money.
Now, living in Florida, this is, you know, the absolute best place to be if you're a herper. So do you keep some animals outside, and how has like the Florida
how's that benefited you? Just
herpetological fucking everyone benefited you throughout this.
Yeah, that's a good thing about living here, you know. Like the panther chameleons, we house outside. Day geckos, we house outside. We could house like tegus, iguanas, like pretty much, you know, everything we wanted outside. The problem would be the space, obviously, but yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, here you could go, you know, 20 minutes south and then start herping for iguanas or alligators, or, you know, I mean, that's
all types of invasive species from all over the world.
Yeah, you could find veiled chameleons. You could find fucking a million different species of anoles and everything, man.
Do you think that affected you in keeping, particularly you see so many lizards like anoles, you think that affected you in keeping lizards instead of maybe snakes?
You know what? I've always had a fascination for lizards in particular. Like ever since I remember when I was little in Venezuela, like me and my dad, we used to go into the rainforest, the mountains. He used to take me there all the time, and I was just like fucking like dumbfounded by some of the lizards you see over there, and I was just so interested in them. Of course, I love fucking snakes too, but not fucking snakes, but I love but I don't know. I just started with the lizards and the geckos and all that, and eventually I will, you know, get into snakes. Personally, I love the blood pythons. I really, really want to get into them. But I just wish I just had more space. I'm actually looking right now into getting a bigger facility, because I'm like, you know, crammed in that room that I have right now.
Now, this is something we've been talking about as far as, are we keeping all the animals at our house, or are we eventually going to get a second building? So it seems like you are leaning towards maybe getting a building,
yeah,
instead of keeping it in your house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because what I did is we made the garage into like an insulated room, and I have all the reptiles there for now, for the most part, but it's just crammed right now, and I have basically around 120 square feet. I'm looking into places with 500 or 600 square feet. That way I could really take it to another level, and then eventually, you know, go up from there.
Gotcha. So when do you, if you had a plan, a business plan, when do you quit your day job and become full-time?
What is your day job?
What is your day job?
my other, I stopped everything, and I'm doing this full time now. But I also teach Muay Thai, which is, you know, I mean, you see my posters in the back. I fucking love MMA and all that stuff. My two passions are reptiles, animals, and, you know, fighting and MMA and all that stuff. And I teach that. I've been doing that for like 9-10 years now. So I teach that on the side, and I've done like everything, man. I've been a realtor. I've worked retail stores. Like, I've been a cook. Like, I've been a lot of things.
Yeah. So would you?
Nope.
Oh, no.
I lost it.
You look like you're about to ask a question, but you don't say anything.
Nope, but that's my beard. I can say that. I would like
that.
What is your
plan as far as in the future? Would you like to just be that online guy, or do you still want to go to shows? Do you enjoy doing the shows?
No, I like going to shows. Because I think what connects with me is, like, the first time I saw Crested Gecko was at a show, and I still see those people that, like, they hold the gecko for the first time, and you just see their eyes light up. So I like going to shows, and, you know, I just see a lot of cool people. I meet a lot of cool people. I've met a lot of great friends through this reptile world, you know, a lot of lifelong friends. And you in the reptile shows, you just meet a lot of cool people. And I like to put my face out there, you know. I don't want to hide behind the fucking computer all the time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of people, especially in reptiles and stuff, that don't really talk to people very well, or want to be social to themselves. They don't really want to be social. So I think it's important that, I mean, that first step of differentiating yourself at a show. If you look at, like, our friend Ryan Sullivan, he talks to even though he's selling retics,
he's talking to the 10-year-old who he knows shouldn't buy it.
10-year-old holding a retic, but it's like he's talking to them and talking to their parents, and, like, he does a really good job with that. So I think it's easy to differentiate yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, for sure.
And then what other things are you doing through? I mean, I saw you doing an auction on Instagram and stuff.
Whoa,
I mean,
never seen that.
Yeah, even though we get people inquiring about buying stuff on Instagram, it never really converts very well as far as a sale. So how do you go about doing those auctions?
So when I first started, the same thing, you know, you get a lot of people that hit you up and they're interested, but it never really converted. But now, like, I'm making a lot of sales through Instagram, you know. But don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of people that, you know, that come and they say they want to buy an animal and they don't really, or I mean, that always comes with, you know, that with that many people, you're always going to get, like, some little kids or something that maybe can afford it. But yeah, the auctions, man, I saw, like, being in Florida, I meet a lot of these people that are in Florida. Ben Siegel is in Florida. You know, these guys, and I see his auction on Facebook is, like, crazy. Like, he's always has weekly, he probably auctions off, like, I don't know, maybe like 100 animals or something.
Easily.
Damn.
Yeah, it's nuts. And the great thing about an auction is, like, it moves stuff, you know. It moves stuff. You could have an animal posted online, and maybe you won't sell it for the same price. Sometimes you do take a little bit of a risk, but at least you're moving animals, you know, and you're keeping, like, that flow.
You're keeping your name out there and excitement and buzz around your stuff.
Exactly. And I think people see that, like, for example, the other day, somebody picked up well, not the other day. It was like maybe like 3 weeks ago or something. Somebody picked up an animal that I usually sell for like $400. They picked it up for like $275. You know, so that's like a good deal. People see that and they're like, "Oh snap! I got to get on these auctions." You know. So yeah, man. I think I'm just always trying to think about ways how I could like, you know, keep just innovating stuff. I don't know. I just because I see what people do on Facebook, and I'm like, all right, well, if Facebook auctions are ran by, when it comes to crested geckos, like AC Reptiles and a couple other people, they run that, but nobody's really on Instagram. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to take Instagram.
And also, you see that Facebook trends for the like 25 to 55 group at this point. And Instagram, you're looking at the kids that are going up. So it's like you're on the offense saying like this is going to be in the future. So Ben Siegel was one of the biggest auctions on Facebook because he started so early doing it before anyone else was doing auctions. So I think it's important to note, even if it's not that successful in the beginning, if you're doing Instagram auctions, I think you're just trying to be on the offense and ahead of the game. Exactly.
And that's another reason why I'm on Snapchat, you know? Like I told you guys, I think Snapchat is a younger crowd, but hey,
we need to get on Snapchat.
That younger crowd is going to be, you know, 25, 30 years old one day, and they're going to be buying reptiles, you know, and I just, that's how I think, man. I'm in this for the long term. I always tell the buddy of mine who's in the same business, I'm like, listen, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon, you know, and I'm thinking I'm trying to think a couple steps ahead, because before you know it, the next fucking thing comes up, and then your old platform dies, and if you're not adapting, so is your income, so is your, you know.
And you can't be religious about that. Like, oh, I'm the Instagram guy. Well,
exactly.
If Instagram goes down, I'm not the fucking Instagram guy anymore. I'll be the fucking, I don't know what it is guy.
Exactly. There's no emotion. You can't have emotion to that shit. It's like a buddy of mine is just going fucking viral right now. Like he's exploding right now. And I've told him, like, you got to be careful, you know, like, first of all, a lot of people are going to fucking come up to you. They're going to, you know, a lot of people are going to come and try to, make a buck off of you, you know? So you got to watch out for those people. And that stuff it's fake. It doesn't really, I mean, it matters to a certain extent, obviously, because you can make a living out of it. But any day, like I've heard of accounts getting hacked, and then they got to start from zero, you know, things like that. You got to be fucking prepared for that stuff. Maybe I'm just paranoid or something.
I didn't think about that. Oh, our like measly 3,500 followers. I don't want to start over.
Once you get the attention, and if you go viral for one thing, I feel like you got to go rapid fucking offense and just fucking put a bunch of shit out there and try to get people from all over on every platform.
Okay, yo, so fuck at that point. So have you guys seen that video? It's one of my videos that a gecko's on my hand. And it jumps.
No, I haven't watched any of your videos.
Hold on. No, it's not a YouTube video. All right, hold on. It's not a YouTube video. It just went viral, though. It was like a 30-second clip. Like a gecko's on my hand, and it jumps past my hand.
Wait, I did. That's the one you showed me. I did. That's the one.
Okay, there you go. That's all you need to know. So that video was fucking viral, right? And this is just a tip of advice for anybody who goes viral in the future. That was the first time, so I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. It hit like 1 million views on my Facebook page, and then people started calling me. People started hitting me up. Unilad hit me up.
Oh, never mind. Whoa.
I'm not sure if I could. All right, so whatever.
They're not listening.
These people hit me up, and they're like, hey, we like your video, it's awesome, we want to share it. And I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, that would be awesome, you know, it's gonna bring a lot of traffic to my page. Fuck that. Don't do that shit, dude. So they tell me, okay, go to our website and fill in like the, you know, send us the link to the video, you know, put your name, all that stuff, and you gotta agree to the terms. Okay, so you sell your rights to the video, and then you can't fucking use it for anybody else.
Wow.
You can't give it to anybody else, and you can't even monetize it on your own YouTube channel.
So you make no money?
No, not right. Yeah, exactly. So what I did get a whole bunch of followers on my Facebook page. I went from like 4,000 to like 10,000 in a couple days. But, you know, I was getting offers afterwards telling me that people that work with like shows like Ellen and like fucking crazy like TV shows, they're telling me like, hey, we're interested in working with your video. We can give you some.
Use it.
We can give you some like residual income and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, I got so pissed. I wanted to fly up to Britain and. But anyway, so let that serve as a lesson to anybody else that's listening, or you guys if you go viral one day.
See, we want to go viral, like semi-viral, but only for negative shit. So like we went to the Sweetwater rattlesnake roundup. Night we got 50K views on Facebook, but then it got banned, and then a bunch of people. It was just like 24 hours.
Well, it's people so the Sweetwater rattlesnake roundup happened. Well, there's multiple rattlesnake roundups in Texas, but Sweetwater is the biggest one, and it's basically like throughout the year, it's who can kill the most rattlesnakes, pretty much, and bring in the most pounds. When the roundup happens.
So we made this video of them like kicking the rattlesnakes and then beheading them and having children like bathe in their blood and put their handprints on.
Yeah, that was the gross. There's this part. Yeah, it's there. It's like in a not an arena, but
it's like an arena. Yeah.
It's kind of like an arena, and they have this section of it where you literally they hook the snake on, they gut it. The people get to come up and do it, and then like once you gut it and everything, you dip your hands in the blood and you put it on a wall and like sign your name.
What fucking people are these?
It's so disgusting. And they have like a Miss Rattlesnake Queen, like because you know every fucking small town has that a 16 girl with like her crown and her nails done, like dipping her hands in rattlesnake blood.
Yo,
and
this
like
sounds like some fucking. Like
it's nuts.
It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like I was halfway puking the whole time we were there. But like the video we made was actually pretty good. But what happened is like it just got banned so quick on Facebook.
It was too graphic, whatever.
Because it was graphic. We'll send it to you. It's pretty graphic.
So it's like the people who were against rattlesnake roundups reported it, and the people who were for also reported it to get it out. So it's like both sides just reported it, and then people just kept on like commenting.
Also, it got lost. Like,
liberal
how do you keep it? I don't know how to keep it from getting lost because you know other people would share it, so they couldn't even see that it was like,
but it didn't
hours
autoplay
anymore. You know.
So like on Facebook, it's important to have your video autoplay, but if it's deemed graphic, it doesn't autoplay, so therefore no one really sees it unless they click on it specifically. It's a whole fucking thing. But anyway, that was our
little side
24 hours of.
But yeah, 50K overnight. It felt cool.
Oh, yeah, it's nice, right? But I mean, that stuff it can happen. It's kind of random. I have videos that I'm like, okay, this shit's for sure going viral, and then it gets like 50 views or something, and I'm like, oh, fuck. But yeah, it's you never really know what could go viral. But I don't know.
Do you think you've like figured out the YouTube game? Because we have that too. Like our videos that were like, God, this is awful. Like no one's gonna like this. Then it's like, you know, blowing up for us. And then the ones we really like, it doesn't work. Like, do you feel like you figured it out somewhat?
No, I mean, if I figure it out, I'd be like PewDiePie or something, like making a living out of it.
PewDiePie's getting kicked off a lot. I don't know if you want to be.
I didn't know. I didn't even know. Look, yo, my sister watches that guy, and I was like, why are you just watching some guy play video games? And then she tells me about him. He's like the #1 YouTuber, and I'm like, oh my fuck! Like people just watch him play video games. I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that. I just play video games and I get paid for them.
All he had to do was not do Nazi propaganda films. And,
but he did, and he got in trouble. And
but I mean, it wasn't. It was out of fucking context, just like everything else.
But but didn't he do something else?
I think with the YouTube, I don't think I figure it out, but I've been working with this company that helps me with my videos and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And they always give me like tips on like how to name your videos. Like if you just put, for example, like crested gecko eating is not as exciting to somebody as if you put like like, you won't believe what this crested gecko will eat. Like some shit like that, you know? Like for some reason, I mean, I get it. Like
It works. Yeah.
yeah, but that's the part that I need to get better at, because sometimes I just kind of like put whatever and just
Right, very literal.
Sometimes
That's how our brain
I
thinks.
can try to be way too honest about it when I should just bullshit more sometimes.
right.
No more
everyone else is
sexing
doing
corn
it.
snakes. You gotta say
Yeah.
you or something. Like
I don't know.
How do you even say that? Like
Right, I don't know.
Male or female?
male or female? And then they're like, don't assume the gender of the fucking corn snake.
All my corn snakes are non-binary, so it's
Dude,
kind of weird. It's
so
a gray
bad.
area.
I don't. Yeah.
But I know what I wanted to talk about before, but I forgot to bring it up. Is you have a business partner, correct?
Yeah.
So Manny, right?
Yeah, Manny.
Okay, so what made you decide to get a business partner? How did you meet him, and do you find that you have a benefit to having, a business partner?
Well, I actually met him in high school. He was a friend of mine before we did any business together or anything. He was just a friend of mine. We became really good friends after high school, and I actually sold him his first crested gecko. And I kind of got him into reptiles a little bit, and then now he, like just like me, he kind of saw the possibility of making money with it, and he said, "Oh, people could actually make a living with this." So he started, working with me, and yeah, he's been doing good, man. He's the one who mostly does the chameleons and the blue tongue skinks.
Okay, do you keep your collection together, or he keeps at his
No.
house? You just kind of split the capital.
Yeah, well, the way he keeps it at his house. I keep my stuff at my house. But when we do get that facility, we'll be putting everything together at one facility,
Aren't you so lucky your business partner lives with you?
Well, my business partner's got to start spending as much money as on these fucking things. So like you're basically doing crested geckos at your place, and he's doing more blue tongues and chameleons.
Yeah, I'll do like crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, some of the other.
You have Europlatus?
Yeah, I do some Europlatus here and there. He's focusing really a lot on the blue tongue skinks, and I'm gonna get some blue tongue skinks for myself too. He actually sold me my first blue tongue skinks. So it's pretty cool how it comes full circle. I sold him his first crested, and he sold me my first blue tongue. But yeah, so he does a lot of that. He's focusing a lot on that because we think, especially with Brian Barczyk and all that, he's been saying that blue tongues have been coming up, but he's the one who's driving them up.
He makes it come up.
Popularity, and his videos are the ones who are bringing the blue tongues up.
Right.
So we've gone into the blue tongues, and yeah, I mean, and they make awesome animals too, man. They're really, really beautiful, especially with all the colors. The northerns, shit, you can tell.
I can't. They're so gross to me. I'm sorry.
Really?
So
Listen,
gross.
I still think they're stupid and awkward looking animals.
They're so gross.
But after you hold them and you like see them in person, they're like, oh, they're pretty cool.
I think the because when I had a blue tongue skink a while back, I had a Merauke or whatever, one of those imports, but I used to make specialized like greens and then fucking blend it up.
Good Lord, too much work.
But it's like now they just do dog food. I feel like dog food is gonna end up being what the baby food was to Cresties back in the day. So I feel like maybe we can do a little bit better than dog food. Do you have any opinion on that?
So yeah, from what I'm no expert obviously, but from what I've learned about that is that blue tongue skinks in the wild, they're very how do you say that? Like they're disposable. Like they dispose of like carcasses and all the bad shit basically. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like they'll eat everything in the wild. They'll eat like anything. So dog food, dog food has a lot of protein which they need, and it has a lot of the I don't know. Manny knows this shit better than me. But
a lot of the compressed, petrified animal parts.
Right, exactly. So I think it's always good to put variety in the diet. But yeah, I think you might have a point because a lot of people Rapashi being one of them, is developing like a all-in-one blue tongue skink diet where you just kind of like mix it with water and it makes like a gelatin, and they love that stuff. So yeah, it might be one of those things that it might be in a couple years we might find out like, oh, maybe this wasn't the best thing, you know, and people will start feeding whatever.
Are you happy you don't have to deal with rats and mice?
Yeah, kind of.
Do some of your lychees and stuff? You ever feed them rodents?
Yeah. I feed them like little hoppers or pinkies every now and then, and even the bearded dragons sometimes too.
Just to see a gecko eat a rodent is cool.
What's so cool about it?
It's just a gecko. It's just, you know, just like you do the Pac-Man frogs and they eat a rodent. You're like, a frog's eating a fucking rodent?
You say that like I know what that is.
So explain what a lychee is, because she doesn't know what a lychee is. So explain like how big they are and what you do.
Okay, so a lychee, the common name is a giant gecko. It's the world's biggest gecko right now. Okay.
Isn't that also a food? I'm sorry. Aren't there little lychee balls?
I'm sure you could eat it if you wanted to.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, so it's the world's giant, the biggest gecko. It gets up to like, the biggest ones can get up to like 15 inches and like 500 grams. And to put it into in perspective, a crested gecko is like 45 grams average, and maybe like 9 inches with the tail and everything. So it's just a big, meaty animal. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And now, do they require more protein than a crested gecko, or what's the difference there?
Yeah, well, they could be maintained on those diets as well, but yeah, definitely I would, if somebody's starting off with a lychee or something like that, I would definitely say add some pinkies into the diet, maybe some roaches, crickets. A lot of times they don't eat them right away, but there's this method, kind of like braining a pinky. You know, where you kind of like take the head out and let the juice. You do that with a cricket for a lychee, and a lot of times they'll eat it. So I definitely think it's really important to give them, you know, that extra protein, because they are, in the wild, they're more predatory than crested geckos and the other geckos.
And do you feel that, I know that there's a diet with insects in it for cresties, so there is, I forgot what the company is, but it's crested gecko diet with insects. Yeah, Pangea. Do you think that suffices, or would you rather give them live prey, and why, if you prefer live? Or?
Well, I think I always give live stuff, even if I'm feeding the insect diet. I always tell people you still feed live, because I think the nutrients, especially when you're gut loading your insects and all that stuff, if you're you know, gut loading with carrots and kale and all these different things, it's giving the animal a little bit more variety, which sometimes in captivity they're not getting all the variety they need than they're getting in the wild. So I always tell people to gut load them. And I don't know, I just feel like the real thing is always better.
Yeah, sometimes keeping it simple may be the best option as far as old school goes. I think sometimes people don't realize that what you feed the prey actually matters when it comes.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude, absolutely. You see that with the growth of animals too. Like if you're feeding shit, you know, if you're not gut loading your crickets or something, it's just kind of like feeding like empty calories or something, you know?
Right.
Basic question: what's gut loading?
Like, so gut loading is like feeding your crickets high quality ingredients, basically. I mean, like kale, romaine lettuce, carrots.
Okay.
You know, not just,
so it's essentially
not
having them eat.
Yeah, not just like potato.
Good person giving them good stuff. Like it's funny. There's
nutrients.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you want
just being a good keeper is what it sounds like.
No,
like,
I mean, no one thinks of feeding their.
Have you ever held a gecko or a lizard?
Absolutely not. Not gonna ever. No interest.
Really?
Did you end up holding that satanic leaf gecko?
No, I watched you. No, that one is cool. I've thought of
amazing.
Though I do like those.
Those are incredible.
They just eat fucking roaches.
We can't do that.
Yeah, they eat insects only.
So tell me how to keep a satanic fucking leaf gecko without feeding it roaches.
Without feeding it what?
Roaches.
You can feed it crickets.
Do you feed all your Europlatus and stuff like that? Do you feed them roaches?
Yeah, but mostly crickets. But they'll eat roaches too. But yeah, crickets. The roaches. The good thing about roaches is they don't smell like crickets.
But just look at them.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, your crickets, I mean, they always get out. They're always loud.
Exactly.
Always
That's the
all
thing,
around.
yo. Crickets are fucking annoying, man. They get out, they chirp, they smell like shit. It's just like it sucks. Crickets are the worst thing in the world. If there was one thing that I could like get rid of,
remove,
somehow keep the animals alive, it would be that.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question not about feeding. Do you have another one about feeding before? Okay, so in my little bit of research before this,
like 10 minutes before, like what is a
no? It was like 2 hours before because I took a nap before this, so it was before my nap. But when we were talking and I was Googling, it talked about, different morphs. And you were explaining that morphs and geckos is just different patterns and different, you said phases, which I still don't understand.
I feel like morph pertains to a genetic mutation that's either co-dominant, incomplete, dominant, dominant. I feel like the cresty mutations are more color phases.
So then is morph the right word then?
Okay, so I think technically you're right. But there is actually at least 2 genetic mutations that we know of right now in crested geckos, which is the lily white, which is a co-dominant, and
which you have.
Yeah, which I have, and then
we'll get into.
And what?
We'll get into that. Yeah, but also the axanthic, right?
And then the axanthic is the other one, which is recessive. But most of the other stuff is it's like polygenic. It's like if you breed like the 2 reddest animals, you'll get really bright red animals in the next generation, things like that. And then there's some other morphs that are, the thing is about crested geckos, they don't have like a wild type, they don't have like a normal. The normals are, there's a mix, there's like the ones that they found in the wild were like flames or like patternless or brindle. So like we don't have like a blank slate to work from. But there are certain traits that you could tell, okay, this is kind of like the Dalmatian trait. It passes along almost like a co-dominant. Because there also is like a super Dalmatian, but yeah, like the weird thing about that though is like you could breed 2 geckos that are not showing the trait and still get babies that have Dalmatian spots in them.
So does that mean they're pet for something?
But then it's not a co-dominant. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah. Exactly. So that's the thing.
A co-dominant sometimes and nothing other times.
So it's weird.
It's up to opinion as far as this is a super Dalmatian, this is a super Harlequin, whatever.
Here's what I tell people though. Here's what I tell people. If you have to ask if it's a super Dalmatian,
it's not a super.
If you see an animal and it's just fucking covered in spots, you're like, oh, that's a super Dalmatian. You know right off the bat. If you have to ask, don't worry. Don't even think about it.
And I've heard people mark things as like ink blotter or something like that also, which would be like large spots on the Dalmatian.
Exactly. Yeah, there's like people call the ink blots are like the really big spots. Sometimes it's like a cluster of spots that form that.
But is that really that's not a morph?
I guess technically it's not.
It's confusing, especially when you come from the snake world where everything seems so binary, like
genetic. Like there's just
genetic guidelines. But I mean, and you're working from a stock of like how many animals? Maybe like 50 animals in the beginning, or
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that you have a gecko that they thought was extinct and now you have all these different color phases, I mean, I think it's pretty amazing and goes towards like how the gecko survived in the wild.
There's way more animals here in the States than there's way more animals in Florida than there are in actually New Caledonia.
Right.
Like there's just crested geckos are so prolific. Like they just breed so well and they're very they're strong, genetically, they're because originally we started with like I think it was a group of like around 50 animals. I think that's what Alan told me, Alan Rapashian. He said that he just started popping up different things in his colony, and he just called it, you know, like a Dalmatian because it had spots, a pinstripe because it had the lines, and he kept kind of like line breeding those until, you know, now there's hundreds of thousands of crested geckos being produced every year, and they all stand back to, you know, a small group of animals.
But I mean, it makes it a cool market because like some people like Dalmatians and some people like Harlequins, and you know, it's really up to their personal opinion on what you want to pick up. And then obviously there's levels to where there's really crazy Harlequins and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a pretty even. I mean, as far as you see all the designer geckos and stuff, are you working? Is all your stock originally from that wholesale lot, or have you branched out from there?
No, I've gotten a lot of stuff over the years from different people. To this day, I still like to add some new blood into my lines and see where I could take a certain group of animals, you know, and projects. But I'm like, you know, I try to diversify the blood. I mean, to as much as I can, you know. But yeah, I'm always looking to add new animals and branch out and all that.
So now that we're talking about new animals, tell us about the lily white, how it's different from like a regular, you see a lot of those cream colored geckos, and what you plan to do with it in the future.
All right. Okay, so the difference between a lily white and a high cream gecko is basically the lily white is a co-dominant. Now, if the super form is a fatal gene, the animals don't survive. It's a leucistic crested gecko, but when it does hatch out, it only lives for like a couple hours and then it dies. Sometimes they won't. Most of the time, it won't even hatch out. But basically, the lily white, you could breed one lily white to a plain patternless gecko, and half of the animals will be lily white,
and half the patternless,
and half will be patternless. If you do that with a high cream gecko, so look, when the offspring that turn out lily white, the amount of cream and white that they have is like almost identical to the parents, or if not even more. Now, when you do that with a high cream crested gecko, you put it to a patternless, a buckskin, let's say, like a brown gecko. The offspring you'll get a mix of different things, of patternless, of of harlequins or whatever. But the cream will never be as bright. It'll fade out to a yellowish. The cream from high cream geckos is selective breeding and line breeding to get the brighter and brighter cream, the whiter and whiter cream. So that's where the difference is. If you breed a cream gecko to a buckskin, a plain gecko, you're gonna get normal looking geckos. If you breed a lily white to a normal gecko, you're gonna get some lily whites and you're gonna get some normal geckos too.
Now, does it benefit you to only breed them to things that aren't high cream geckos, so you know the difference?
Well, right now that's what I'm experimenting. I breed it right off the bat. You could tell as it hatches. You could tell it's a lily white. I mean, I have a lot of experience with it, so I've seen a lot of babies hatch, obviously. So I could tell right off the back it's different. But I could see how sometimes if you're not experienced with it, or if you're not sure what lines you're working with, you could hatch out a really nice high cream animal, and it might look just like a lily white when it's a baby. So I think it definitely takes some experience, and obviously you might want to grow it out a little bit more just so you could see the whites to start to come in more.
Okay, now if we took other things as an example, say a spider ball python or a jaguar carpet python, where
just about to
they
ask
both,
that.
when bred together, create a deadly form of a leucistic snake.
Exactly.
But it doesn't hatch out of the egg. But those both have neurological issues in the regular codominant phenotype. So
are there neurological?
If you see any difference in the lily whites as far as maybe neurological issues or anything different than a normal crested?
I haven't seen any difference right now. I'm really early into the breeding though, but I have talked to the one who started it all, and he said that, and he's put this information
The
out
one who started it all. That
Sounds very official.
that sounds so
dramatic.
The one.
He said that for the most part, he has about, he said, I think it was like 5% will hatch out with some sort of like little tilt in their head. He said, I think it was,
Okay. Like
but
spider.
he said that the trick to that was to incubate cooler. If you incubate warmer, you could have more problems with the offspring, or you'll have like less a percentage of hatching that is lower. So you want to incubate a little cooler than usual, and so yeah, that's another thing. I mean,
That's interesting.
with a bunch of I think it's the Enigma leopard geckos, and
Yeah.
yeah, like the spider ball pythons. There's a lot of things that
Lethal leucistic.
yeah, that fucks them up. But right now, like my lily whites, they all act normal. They all look normal. I haven't hatched out anything that is like doing backflips or something. But
It's obvious, yeah.
but yeah, so that is a possibility that in the future, if people aren't really breeding with the proper, they're not keeping like track of what they're doing and what they're breeding, that you're going to start to see those problems.
Right. I think you're lucky kind of with geckos because you get to speed up or slow down development of your embryo in the egg. For python eggs, you're working with 88 to 89 degrees. They're all hatching at 55 days, whatever.
Yeah.
But with geckos, maybe that slower development at lower temperatures makes it somehow fully develop more as far as the neurological thing goes, which is really interesting. What were you going to say?
I was just going to ask for a very quick, short, and sweet synopsis of the breeding process of crested geckos, because that wasn't included in my research.
Okay, so it's very basic. It's basically you can put up a male and a female together as long as the temperatures are like room temperature, in the 70s. If it's not too cold, usually if it's like in the lower 70s, maybe like 70 or the high 60s, that's when they kind of won't breed. But if it's like 75 to 78, they're 99% of the time they're gonna breed. And all you got to do for them basically is give them enough like visual barriers to get away from each other if they want. You gave them obviously enough food and water, and they get along perfectly fine. I've never really had a problem with crested geckos or like gargoyle geckos where an animal kills another one or anything crazy like that. But there are certain other species of geckos that happens, like the giant geckos, which we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
They're very, very, they pair bond. So you can't just put any two animals together. And same thing with the chahuas, which are another species of geckos native to New Caledonia. But yeah, it's very easy. It's easy as putting them both together, having the right temperatures, feeding them, watering them, and pretty soon the females will lay a clutch of 2 eggs every month or so, and you incubate those at room temperature as well in vermiculite or super hatch or perlite, whatever you have.
Mhm.
And room temperature, like around 75 degrees, they'll usually hatch out maybe like in 70 days or so. If you make it cooler, like 68 to 70 degrees, they could take up to 120 days. And warmer temperatures, maybe 78 to 80 degrees, which I don't really recommend going that high. You could hatch them like in 45 to 60 days. Yeah. So when you hatch them, when you wait until they develop a little bit more in the egg, though, the babies do hatch out a little thicker, a little bigger.
Okay.
The crest they tend to be a little bigger. The tail pad and just the body overall will be a little thicker.
Didn't realize they're called crested geckos because there's a crest.
Hey, so I've noticed that people kind of will judge geckos on like the width of their head and stuff, and I never really understood that. Can you explain a little bit about what is aesthetically pleasing in a crested gecko rather than anything else?
Yeah. So a lot of people, it's a crested gecko, right? So people want a nice crest. Exactly. So a big triangular head,
Science.
you know, with like they call it floppy, where the crest basically is so big that it starts to droop down. People love that, especially if the crest, like the little spikes, are really nice and pronounced. Um, a gecko that is bald, which it doesn't have crest, like, or it has barely any, it barely has it. Its head is not really triangular. That's less desirable. But yeah, a lot of people like that's something really big. Like especially when you're looking to breed animals, you kind of want to get like the nicest structure of an animal.
Right. And does breeding temperature that affect it directly?
Crustedness.
Yeah, yeah. So like if you incubate longer, if you incubate cooler, the baby will be in the embryo longer. It will take more time to absorb like the yolk and stuff, and it'll make it a little heftier, a little bigger.
Right. So I mean that's the same exact thing with corn snakes. So
Yeah.
what were you
Sorry.
gonna say?
I was wondering, is there any like signs in crested geckos like that they're ready? So like our jungle carpets, we talk about like when they start cruising, that shows like the males are start hunting, like they're ready to make some babies. So in cresteds, is there any sort of like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for,
Some type of sign that they're ready to breed or ready to size.
Well, the females might start laying infertile eggs, and usually when they do that, they're usually of size already. And the males, you'll see they develop like a bulge underneath the tail base, where their hemipenes are at, and they vert their hemipenes, and they lick their own hemipenes.
So once it grows balls and it sucks its own dick, then you're ready to go.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
So the crested geckos will suck their own dick when they're ready to go.
Well, Marilyn Manson.
Hey, is that true? You know Marilyn Manson?
He says it's not true. I believe it.
No. But Marilyn Manson, he grew up around where I live right now in Coral Springs, and the owner of Underground Reptiles used to be in a rock band or something, and they were buddies back in the day. Yeah, small world.
You would know?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So wait, where in Florida do you live?
I'm in South Florida. I live in Coral Springs. It's called it's like 30 minutes north of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. So I feel like we can't go this podcast without suggesting, even though he's a gecko person, suggesting that he goes to Southeast Carpet Fest
in Cape Coral, which I don't know where that is.
Cape Coral's South Florida too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know where Cape Coral is?
Yeah.
How far are you from there?
Probably like an hour or so.
Okay. Well,
we're gonna drive like 13
hours. Oh Jesus! So. We say that. So Southeast Carpet Fest is gonna be the first year. But there's other carpet fests all around the.
Basically, just a bunch of snake people getting together.
But it'd be still interesting to go. It's going to be at.
But I'm wondering.
Whose house is it?
At Dave Palumbo's. But I'm wondering, as far as meeting people in South Florida, you went to Ty Park's place, right?
Oh, well, that's way cooler than Southeast Carpet Fest. No, right. Do you know who Dave Palumbo is?
Yeah, I've seen him. The ex bodybuilder.
Yeah. I call him. I'm not gonna say what I call him.
Say anything.
But Southeast Carpet Fest is gonna be in May.
No, it's gonna be in February. You don't even know your stuff. I'll talk to him after. God damn it! What the hell?
Well,
we're rolling.
Okay, go change the subject then.
I was trying to talk about Ty Park.
Okay, then do it.
So, did you go to like Iguana Fest, or why were you over there? Were you just taking a tour?
Yeah, I've gone twice. I went once to take a tour. And then the second time I went for Iguana Fest. My buddy has a business where he deals with like a lot of the predatory birds like owls and falcons and all that. So at Iguana Fest we had a booth and I was just hanging out with him and kind of helping him out. And yeah, we were just there. Ty has Ty has so much land, so much land. So many.
As far as like South Florida, does that set a precedent as far as you're gonna have to have all these lizards, or are you trying to stick within geckos?
No, yeah, I definitely want to expand to other lizards. Especially living in Florida, you know, I could really use a lot of that natural sun that we get and the weather, which is perfect for reptiles. But that, you know, I think that that's going to take some time to build because land is, you know, it's expensive. So I gotta build up to that.
Right. I mean, it would be very nice to pick up a few rhino iguanas and just keep them out there, the Grand Cayman iguanas and that stuff. But I mean, as far as like Tom Crutchfield, someone who keeps like snakes outside, would you ever consider doing something like that?
Maybe, you know, I don't. What kind of snakes does he keep outside?
He keeps pretty much everything he owns, as far as like even retics and stuff like that. He'll have out in like 8x8 cages. And I mean, people are very like iffy about that kind of stuff.
But why?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it obviously survives and thrives out there. And I mean, he clearly knows what he's doing. So I don't know. People are just like, you know, South Florida is not Indonesia, but then again, either is your fucking plastic box and your rack. Yeah, I mean, fuck. Exactly. I don't know.
Neither is that tub you have them in. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, if I'm keeping lizards, I'm gonna keep like those type of lizards, iguanas, tegus, all that stuff. I for sure keep it outside, no problem. The snakes, I guess, if I did Burmese or things like that, I would keep it outside.
Yeah, Burms clearly do well out in the wild there.
Exactly.
Do you keep your cresteds in tubs?
Yeah, tubs.
Okay, so do you think there's a downside to keep them in, like some people keep them in exoterras or even fish tanks and shit like that?
Yeah, the downside to that is it's really heavy, it's expensive. I mean, obviously, if you have a gecko as a pet, obviously you don't want to keep it in a fucking tub. It's ugly. But if you want to have a collection or a business, you got to keep them in tubs. It's so much better. It keeps it. It actually, I say it's better than actual glass enclosures because it keeps humidity in better, and it's not as clear. So the geckos kind of have a more secure. They have a better sense of security. You know? Yeah.
Last week, during our podcast, I think someone was watching from Germany or something, and they're saying that they keep things as natural as possible. Yeah. And we all thought that was like, I just don't know how you have a business when you're keeping everything in huge things. Like it's just not possible.
There is a reason why all the biggest reptile breeders in the world are in the United States. And let me tell you something. I understand those people. That's cool. But if I was rich, if I could do that, I would. That's awesome to me. Like it looks so cool. But there's no way you can maintain. There's no way you're gonna pay for all that, and
you have to have a whole house.
And the animals really don't care because if the animals did care, you would see a decline in production and the lifespan of animals. You would see higher stress levels. With at least when I'm speaking about geckos, the animals don't care as long as their basic requirements are met, food, water, and basically hiding spots, which is for them. They're gonna be fine. They're gonna be a-okay. So a lot of people, I get that all the time. On YouTube, whenever I show my my tubs or something, every now and then I'll get those people from Europe, and they'll be like, "How could you say you love your animals if they're in tubs?" And it's like, the animal doesn't know what the fuck it's in. It doesn't care. It just wants to. As far as I'm concerned, I'm doing him a service, not having him in the wild, and
you're readily giving them food and water. Like I think that's pretty much the best survival thing ever.
Yeah. You'll never see a crested gecko as fat as they are in captivity in the wild. They're all like skinny as hell.
Yeah, it's like people are so bugged out about the looks of their animals. In the wild, these things have fucking 10 ticks on them. They're eating rodents that look like dog shit and all types of different things.
They have scars, maybe missing an eye or something.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
other time, not too long ago, we were herping and we found an iguana with a BB gun stuck, like where the skin, where the skin had healed over the BB gun,
Oh my
and we
gosh.
felt it, and it was hard, and we just pulled, like, kind of like popped it, and it just a BB came out. These guys
That's some
are
straight Florida shit right there.
straight for yeah,
Popping BBs out of iguanas.
feeding our alligators and shit.
That should be the name
We
for
have
this
that kid Darren
podcast.
who talks about all the weird things he eats out of
He's
Florida.
over.
Is he in there?
He was on here earlier.
Yeah,
He was
he's
on the
from South
chat.
Florida. He'll just
We got
eat
a lot of
random
Florida
shit out of
people.
the
This
fucking
guy
woods.
Raz in Miami. He's in South Florida, and he said he gets giant anoles, frilled
that would be
lizards.
nice as far as for corn snakes. I would love to be just around.
Oh yeah, of course. There's a bunch of corn snakes that you could find.
Yeah,
all the time.
just freaking everything in Florida.
Everything.
But as far as I feel like I had a question, but I just forgot it.
Oh
What
no.
happened?
Okay, question. Didn't we talk about earlier in crested geckos? So since we know that in snakes the bug-eyedness is connected to leucism, do you think
they're all dead? He doesn't know.
Oh, never
So
mind.
that's no fun. But as far as Exanthic, are you in the Exanthic project?
Not yet. I'm holding out on that one a little bit. I'm holding out on it a little bit, but when I start to see that it's getting some progress, or maybe the prices come down a tiny bit, I'll hop on it.
So that's recessive, right?
Yeah.
So, really the only play is to put it to lily white, or else you're not going to know your exact results.
Well, the guy that has the majority of the Exanthics right now,
Altitude Exotics, right?
Look at your research.
Hey.
Research.
Hey.
Altitude Exotics, yeah. He's been breeding them into a lot of different morphs. From my knowledge right now, he has one that is a pinstripe Axanthic, which is fully white. It's not any. There's not an ounce of cream on that thing. And he's trying to work with that. He also bought into some lily whites, so he's gonna breed those and see what the hell he makes. Which that's really exciting, but it's gonna be a couple.
But
years
that's kind of a dead end too, as far as you get the Xanthic lily white, and then all you can do really is line breed to that. But
the thing about that is, with the lily white, there's so much variety with it, because there's red lily whites, there's white lily, there's dark lily whites, there's yellow lily whites, there's like the lily whites kind of. Are you guys familiar with fat tail geckos by any chance?
Not really. You read
wasn't I reading them?
Yeah, you read
it was the African
Oreos and shit.
Yes,
African fat tail geckos. So
look at me.
He said it.
I got the African part. Okay.
He's like, you hear about African fat tail geckos?
No,
like,
he said fat tail. He just and you spill beer.
Right,
that's what you get.
So with the African fat tail geckos, there's a gene that's called the whiteout gene, which is very similar to the gene, the lily white, in my opinion, because it's also a codominant. It's also, it doesn't, the super form isn't viable, and it adds a lot of white pattern, and it whacks out the pattern in African fat tail geckos. And that's kind of like the same thing that the lily white does in the crested geckos. So it's very, very, there's a lot of ways you could go with it. You could use the crested gecko kind of polygenic stuff and start adding the lily whites and start making your own type of lily whites. You know what I'm saying? Like you could go.
I guess my question would be, once you put the lily white in there, are you just making everything a mixed bag, or is it still going to come out with some of the good polygenic stuff?
Yep, it'll come out with some polygenic stuff too. Like there'll be lily whites that are pinstripes, or lily whites that have Dalmatian spots, So it just depends on what you breed it with. But a lot of these animals are just a mess because you don't really know what, like if you have an offspring, like a crested gecko, you don't really know what it could have inside its genetics or whatever that could cause, certain things to pop up, I don't know. It's weird. It's not. We're not as scientific as
snakes.
people.
But it's way not straightforward as far as like our genetics are mostly straightforward until you get to what else you like is like Borneo blood pythons and shit. They're fucking all over the place, and they're Borneo short-tail pythons. Someone's gonna fucking murder me about the blood thing, but
I don't know.
I mean, they're all over the place as far as they have the same polygenic random shit going on as far as, and then also co-dominant things. So
yeah,
that's another
I don't know.
confusing thing to me.
Someone asked, what's the difference between an African fat tail and a leopard gecko, and how can you tell?
Okay, so an African fat-tailed gecko comes from Africa. the
Not my question.
The leopard geckos come from the Middle East. There's a couple little differences. Like, for example, African fat-tailed geckos, their feet will be a little stumpier. Their toes won't be as long. And a lot of them, the African fat-tailed geckos, for the most part, are either banded or they're striped. So it's really hard to explain, but when you get like a feel for it of how they look, you know, because
you can just see
physically they kind of look very similar. You know, the fat tail, their build is very similar, but when it comes to the patterns, that's when you start to see some of the facial structure too. Like fat-tailed geckos have a little like a stumpier face, kind of. But it's just, you know, it kind of takes like. It's like if somebody asks you what's the difference between freaking, I don't know, like a green tree python and a emerald tree boa. Like, to the average person, they might not see the difference, but to us, we know exactly which is the difference, you know?
Yeah, it just happened to something that co-evolved on opposite sides of the earth, but somehow look the same, like an emerald and a green tree, even though they're completely different and completely the same in some ways.
Exactly. You know?
I don't know. I feel like all the emeralds, that whiteness, that's not on
but
the green.
No, there's some green trees with a lot of white on them too, though.
A ruse.
Okay.
And then there's, you know, that's a whole nother thing, man.
Okay. We already acknowledged how little I know. So.
Yeah. But as far as, I mean, it seems like people go into leopard geckos, and then they go into African fat tails, and they may go into knob tails. Or you go the other route. You go crested geckos, all the Ractodactylus, all the Europlatus, all the other geckos that kind of look like each other. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
Why do you think that happens?
I don't know, man. I think, well, I'll tell you, with the crested geckos and all the other New Caledonian stuff, I think it's because of how easy they are to keep. And it's like, you could get a completely different, you could get a different animal, and it's really the same exact care, but it's like a giant gecko or like a fucking mossy gecko or gargoyle gecko. It's just different colors, different patterns, and it's just a different animal, but you're like, oh, it's just as easy to keep. Same thing with the leopard geckos and the fat-tailed geckos. Same thing, you know. And the knob-tailed geckos too, you know, they're all very similar. I think it comes down to when people, to the housing of them, you know.
Right. Yeah, just general care, stuff like that.
Nope, I'm just looking at you. I don't have a question.
Okay. So, I mean, you have your Ractodactylus, all that other stuff. What are you planning on pairing this year?
Well,
things other than cresties, pretty much.
Right. So, there's these lizards called Abronia. They're the alligator lizards.
Which species do you have?
Someone talked about those.
Yeah, I have Abronia graminia and Abronia lithrachilla, and I have a single male of Abronia mixteca. They're really, really, really cool animals, man. They're very very intuitive. They kind of like look at you. I don't know, they're like very smart for a lizard, you know? Like they'll look at you. They know when you're gonna feed them. If you're gonna like try to grab them, they'll kind of like run away. But when you get them out, they're very docile. And they're just really cool animals. And in a couple years back, they were like $1,000 or more each, a piece. Now, unfortunately, there's been a lot of like they've been smuggling a lot of them in. So a lot of wild caught animals and stuff. And that's like I that's kind of like a bad side, but at the same time, in the wild, there's a lot of deforestation that's happening, and they're not gonna make it much longer in the wild, I feel. So I feel like with the bad sometimes comes some good. I think that hopefully somebody will figure them out here in the States, because they are endangered right now, actually.
Mhm.
So hopefully somebody could figure them out and start, producing them. And kind of like the crested gecko, we thought they were extinct, and then they brought them to the States, and crested geckos might be endangered right now in New Caledonia, or critically endangered. But in the States, the species is going to live,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to outlive the actual animals in the wild. So I think that's one of the positive sides to our hobby, that sometimes it kind of keeps species alive.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. It's like, because all the cloud forests in North America, which would be Mexico or Central America, all that stuff where all those abronia are fragmented, and they're cutting down all the lumber and that stuff. So it's like they're not gonna have any place to live, but they're gonna live in our collections. Is that enough to, like, are we saving the species? Like, at least some people know that they exist, but it's like, should we just not cut down those forests? But then it's like,
That's
Right,
a
but you can't
separate
stop-
story.
You can't stop that. That's a completely different thing. Like, bro, fucking, if you start doing the research into all the deforestation and all that crap, you get depressed, because it's like, damn, all
Yeah.
these, like, it's I
But
don't
it's
know.
really people trying to eat, as far as that goes, from there,
And
or
live.
from Borneo, all that stuff. Those people are just trying to eat, when we're here fucking sitting here saying,
Right.
don't chop down the trees, but we fucking got houses and fucking a job where you sit in a cubicle and shit.
Exactly.
You don't have that luxury.
No,
to
yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, no, definitely, but it's like, to a certain extent, people, there's a lot of the animals that are being they're going extinct, and in a lot of different parts of the world, and it's like there's nothing you can really do. They're gonna fucking, you can't stop the machine. It's gonna keep going, and it's gonna
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and whether you like it or not, it's gonna, those animals might be extinct one day in the wild. So I think that, in captivity, you could at least keep them going, and a lot of people enjoy them. So why not have them?
I read this book about nonprofits in particular, like, what do you call that? Conservation nonprofits. And it's like, there's only one thing that links all these stories together, is that they all lose, that they're all fighting a losing battle,
Yeah.
to where you
Against deforestation?
they never win.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it's like, fuck, man, we're pretty fucked. But I mean, what are you gonna do?
Well, that's why things like USR.
Well, that's just keeping
Exist.
for captive. So it's like,
Oh,
how do you keep the wild? But I mean,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
just keep snakes in plastic boxes. Man. I don't know.
all you can worry about is what you're doing. I mean, that's at the end of the day, like, you can't.
But I think
Can't
it's
fight
cool that
every
things
fight.
like crested geckos have become so popular. Things that are, we have a bunch of things that are very uncommon in the wild, but are kept very well here and propagated, like rough scale pythons, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, have you guys gone to the NARBC show in Tinley Park?
He has. I haven't.
Oh man, it's the greatest show ever.
I bought a bunch of crested geckos there last time.
Really? How long
That's where I
ago?
got my group of crested geckos. It was probably 3 years ago, maybe.
3 years ago? Wait, do you still have geckos?
Yeah, that's where I got this shirt. Chicago Reptile.
Stand up, show it off. It's your
Oh,
Halloween
Halloween
shirt.
shirt.
Oh,
Chicago
snap.
Reptile House. But, I was lost track. That's fucking corny. stuff.
Did you go to Tinley this year?
Yeah, I did. It was awesome. There's so many, like, I think, like, for gecko people, that's like the best show ever, because all the
For everyone.
Well, yeah.
For everyone.
yeah, I don't really know much about the other world too much, but yeah, like, there's like everything you could ever think of, and high quality stuff. It's the best show ever, dude. I wish I could go vend over there. Maybe next year.
I think people
Isn't it
don't-
like 1,000 or how much is it for a table there?
I heard it's like $350 or something.
Oh, never mind.
perfect, man.
I
Get the fuck
thought-
out of here. Let's do that shit. But I mean, people don't understand that it's more about just being in the community, like
networking.
Like it was different than any other show I went because I stayed there overnight, and it's like you get to really meet the real motherfuckers who
real
are here.
Dogs.
Yeah,
real dogs.
Exactly. You meet the OGs over there.
Yeah, and it's different when you look at someone on the internet, and then when you drink with them or hang out with them or do whatever and have a whole day.
Do whatever.
Really
do whatever. What's the do whatever?
Do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. Just let yourself be free and do whatever you want. Yeah.
I know in the snake world, there's very few women. Are there any big women in the crested gecko world?
In terms
Big
of
women.
like breeders?
Big women. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple. Like when it comes to like some of the bigger breeders, there's one in California that's Scaredy Cat Gecko. She's really big. I think she downsized a little bit, but she was one of the big. Like she had a lot of animals, a lot. And there's a lot of hobbyists. Like there's a lot of girls that are like small time breeders, but there's like all over.
They're just like not as good, as men at propagating reptiles. That's really it.
Why aren't there more girls?
There's a lot of girls in corn snakes and colubras.
Really?
They're all cute and small. And
Who? Who's big? A big breeder?
tell
I
you
can't think of a
soon.
big breeder that's a girl.
Well, not big.
Yeah, I'm
but,
talking about
within the
big.
hobby big. I mean, I know like Jessie Mundi or something, a girl who does crested geckos.
Oh yeah, but she's
I
not
don't know
like
if
a.
she's fucking big.
She's
I
like a
don't know.
hobbyist more.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny that I know these people because it's like Facebook and the community. You just like meet, like you have everybody as friends.
If I know someone's name in crested geckos, then
They must
you
be
do.
big.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, why aren't there more girls? Like, I just don't get it. I kind of understand girls not being in snakes, but I don't understand girls not being in crested geckos. Like,
what are you trying to say?
you
They're
were
not saying-
animals.
I'm saying they're not scary. I just don't like them. They're not scary. Snakes can be scary. You're not gonna get a huge ass retic sized crested gecko. Like, so why aren't there more girls?
I mean, there is a lot of girls, but like big breeders, big time breeders. Yeah, I don't.
It's just like, why aren't there a bunch of women entrepreneurs? But I feel like there's just a certain gene that makes girls more compassionate and guys more like.
But you're taking care of an animal. That compassion is needed.
Yeah, but there's.
That's true,
I agree. I agree.
Thank you.
Yo, I agree.
No, with who? With who?
Yo,
Oh, fuck.
There you go.
because I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but I think men like. God, we're gonna get into fucking YouTube's gonna like take no, but men tend to be more entrepreneurs and stuff, and it's not to say that women can't or whatever, but I think we just have a little bit more of a drive because our ancestors, the guys, are usually the ones who are out there hunting for food. Yes, we were.
Women can't drive.
She's like, hey, don't invite her to the podcast ever again.
No, we've had way worse.
Really?
Yeah, you
We've
have-
had way
What's
worse.
the worst you've had? Like, what could go wrong?
It's our friends.
Yeah, I
so-
mean, they're friends, so we accept them later.
No, it's funny when you have some people like we'll have someone who we're friends with on the outside and they come in and they do the podcast, but they do it like right next to us and we drink and then we just bullshit about random stuff and you kind of, you just start working off each other and we'll say like ridiculous shit.
Well, which is what's happening now, even though we're not
it's the same
together.
exact
It's still
thing that's
happening.
even though you're through the computer, But I mean, that's the beauty of the podcast thing because it's more our genuine selves instead of trying to put on a front. As far as like, I don't think right now that I'm on camera or anything.
It just feels like we're
that.
hanging out.
We just hang out and talk regularly.
Like
Right.
15-year-olds who Skype all the time and talk to each other.
Right.
So what do you guys do besides like breeding all the snakes and stuff?
Well, you mean like what's our day jobs? Is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah. Do you guys have day jobs?
yes, I'm a teacher.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
What do you teach?
I teach ages 3 to 6 in Montessori. Very few people know what Montessori is, but
She's, you know, that more compassionate, more giving, you know, to the children type of role. To where I'm a man, so I do data entry.
Oh my God, shut up. I had to, a kid, I already told you, a kid called me a liar today, and I had to have a very heavy conversation.
Like, stop lying, first of all.
I didn't lie. She's just sassy, and she called me a liar. And she was 5, and that's not okay. And we had to have a serious discussion.
We're like very normal people, besides the fact that we have a bunch of snakes in this extra room.
Yeah, we're not to your level where we can quit our day jobs yet.
Well, I mean, I'm only 24. I live with my parents.
Yeah, we're 24.
I'm 25.
Oh, okay.
We're 24.
Well,
I'm like a lot older than you, so whatever.
No, well, I don't know. The thing is, the reason I could do it is because I still live with my parents. I paid off my car and all my bills and stuff with the gecko money, and I could probably live on my own right now. But I'm like, let me just build this business first, and then I'm not rushing into things. I'm not like, you know, I'll take my time, and then when the time comes, you know, I'll do everything else. But
shit, if we lived with one of our parents, we'd have so many more snakes because we had so much more money.
That's why I say to a lot of people, like, I wish I still, like, I was so, like, headstrong about not living with my parents that at this point it's like I'd be so much better off if I lived with my parents.
That's the thing, like, you know, I mean, I think everybody wants to, like, fucking move out and, like, live their life on their own and already, but I just kind of, like, took myself back, and I'm like, nah, I just you know, I want to build this thing first, because I don't want to, when I move out, I don't want to come back. I'll rather live in the street first before I come back, you know. And, I mean, not that I hate my parents or anything, but it's just like, I don't know. I want to.
But you make that step, you don't want to regress back to where you were.
Exactly. You want to progress. You want to go up.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, I would have stayed with my parents and made a nest egg or something, you know, like, and saved up money, or just spent it all on snakes. Or something.
You would have spent it all on snakes.
But I didn't have that foresight when I was 18 and moved out to go to college, and then moved out to do all the military shit, and moved out to do everything. It's hindsight is 2020, but
now, hopefully.
Yeah,
we're trying to be like you. We're just trying to be like you.
Everyone's trying to be like someone else, which is kind of part of the problem. So it's like, why don't we just enjoy our process? Because if we make it full-time in the reptile business, it's going to be different than how he makes it, which is going to be different how Tom Crutchfield made it in 1970.
Well, yeah, you know? So we're not smuggling things in our pants.
Well, everything's it's its own thing now. It's so much different, and like everyone has their own path. There's not one way to get somewhere.
To make it. And I think definitely hearing him say that, like, he's had Instagram for 4 years, YouTube for 6 years, like, that's very what's the word? Not refreshing. That's not the word, but I don't know.
It's reassuring to know
that's
that
the word.
Everything doesn't just, because you see some people, right? Yeah. And it happens seemingly overnight. And for us, it's been always grinding out. We've only really been going that hard for like 8 months. But I feel like we're doing all right.
Well, yeah, you guys get, how old is your YouTube channel?
It's old, but we've only really been doing
since last
That's
April.
What I mean. Like, when have you really started to, like, post and stuff?
Last April.
April 2017. April of this year.
You see, I mean, I obviously, when I started in YouTube, I was much younger. I didn't know. I kind of learned as I went, but it takes time, and that's what I tell people that wanna do this. Like, this is not like an overnight thing. This takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of like research, and just fucking looking into things. And you know, it's not an overnight thing for sure. Some people it might be. You know, some people get lucky, or they just have that, like, it factor, but the rest of us,
those aren't even the norm.
Yeah, exactly. You can't look at somebody. It comes back to what you were saying. You can't. Everybody wants to be like somebody else. Like, you gotta know who you are. I think that's a big part of it, because, like, I'll have friends who I love very dearly, but they, to this day, they're not really and that's okay. Not, you don't have to know what you want, but you got to know yourself. You got to know that if you're following and you're doing something, you got to know if that's something you really want to do, or if it's just like a bullshit thing that you're doing just to make money on the side, or whatever.
Right.
And if you don't know that, I feel like you're never going to go anywhere, because you're always going to be switching back and forth between, you know, hobbies or occupations.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that when I got a little bit older, when I was younger, as far as, I mean, that's not too far. Someone who's listening to this who's much older than us is like,
right?
I don't want to say like back in the day or something, but like when I was 18, I didn't have that foresight to see that you need to like go through things. You don't just switch things on and off. So like when I chose reptiles to be my thing there and just never quit and always do it. So like, even I talked to my friend Ryan, and we're always like, oh, we're so fucking lost in the world. Like, I don't know what we're doing. And then he's like, but I wish I was like you, where you have your thing. And it's like, yeah, I should appreciate that we know our thing.
Yep. Listen, I get that all the time, man.
So it's like,
because I have a lot of friends that are like, and I just ask them. It's funny because I ask them, I'm like, dude, what do you like? And they're like, I mean, I like a lot of things. And I'm like,
watching
yeah,
TV.
but what the fuck do you like that you would do for the rest of your life? And a lot of people don't know, man. A lot of people don't know. And what I tell everybody is like, just find that thing and just fucking do it. Especially if you're young. Especially if you're young, because your risk is so much lower. You know, your risk to, like, what the fuck? I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a kid.
We don't have 3 kids and a mortgage and shit.
Exactly. No. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's not that many responsibilities, like real responsibilities. You don't have to, like, you know, it's just, I think
our biggest responsibility is the snakes.
But yeah, I mean, this is the time, us that we're young, I think this is the time that we could fucking go 100% and fuck it. If we fail, then at least we have tried, you know? I'd rather have tried and not made it than like be like, what if I could have done this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I want to say that I tried as hard as I could for as long as I could to make it work. So it seems like the people who do that are typically successful, but even if you fail, I feel like you won't have that regret.
Yeah.
You never tried.
Exactly. And listen, failing, like, I mean, I get all this stuff because from like martial arts and training and all this stuff, it's been engraved in me, and I take a lot of that to apply to my business and everything. Did I hear you say you were in the military?
Yes.
Okay, so it's similar. Like, a failure can't stop you. You got to find your way around it. You got to solve the problem and move forward. You know what I'm saying? You can't, especially if somebody's starting out, if you mess up, you lose 50 animals. And if this is really what you want to do, then this is part of it. You know, it's no profession you do is ever going to be a fucking walk in the park, you know?
And nothing that you ever plan is going to go exactly as
exactly. That's another thing. And sometimes you find out the fucking hard way. You'll be like, yeah, I'm going to breed this to this, and I'm going to get 10 babies, and I'm going to sell them for $100 each, and then you get one baby and it goes for $50.
That's what I always tell people, stop it. They're like, well, I got this and this. I'm going to breed it to this, and I'll probably make this. Well, stop with that snake math, because the snake doesn't give a fuck what you paid for it or about breeding or any of that. You know, like, you got to make all that shit happen. Exactly. You can't depend on that kind of stuff.
I have a totally different question, which might be dumb, but I'm going to ask it. Is snake herping similar to gecko herping?
Yeah, kind of.
You spotlight a lot for geckos, right?
Yeah, for like lizards and like iguanas and stuff, you'll spotlight. So you'll have a flashlight. You'll be looking in the trees and you're looking out for the shiny scales. But for snakes, you could either road cruise. Depends on the snake too. Like, those are like little rough green snakes. You kind of do the same thing. But like pythons or horn snakes, you gotta like kind of like road cruise or go into an area where you know there's the snakes, leftover shit. You know,
right?
Shit, you know.
So with geckos, you're looking in trees.
Yeah, mostly like trees, little bushes, walls, like in crevices, like in between. If like there's like for example, one time we were herping in the Keys, and there was like just piles of wood stacked up on each other, and we moved them, and there's like fucking 50 different kinds of gecko in there.
Whoa.
Yeah. And there's like the iguanas. There's like all over the fucking place here in Florida, in South Florida.
I know here in Texas we get those Mediterranean house geckos, and they're always at like the lights that attract all the bugs.
Yep.
In front of your house or something like that, or in your apartment building, there's lights that attract all the bugs, and the Mediterranean geckos will be hanging.
Oh, never noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing here. We have those here too. Those geckos are everywhere.
Yeah, I mean it's.
I don't know what those
invasive. I mean,
so where in Texas are you guys?
We live in Dallas.
In Dallas. So were you guys affected by the hurricane? No, right?
We got like
Houston, right?
Yeah, it was Houston.
Yeah.
Were you affected by Irma?
Not really. I mean, we lost power for like maybe like 5 days or so.
That's serious.
Yo, trust me, that is not that bad.
Okay.
I had
we found 10 iguanas with BBs in them, and no one gave a fuck.
Yeah, we just fucking built a fire. No, but it's not that bad compared to other people who got their fucking shit wrecked, you know?
Did you at least have like a generator or something?
Yeah, I had to.
Okay.
I would lose all these geckos. These guys,
right.
Anything over 85 degrees, I'll start losing geckos. So I had to get a generator, a portable AC unit. I even got like a water extractor just in case there was flooding in the room.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's one thing. You see all those giant breeders down there, but it's like, for me, I'd be so afraid of hurricanes and stuff like that. How do you prepare for that?
You gotta fucking put shutters in your house and hope for the best.
Cross your fingers.
And then are you one of those Florida people that doesn't evacuate ever?
Yeah, I didn't evacuate. I mean, the thing
if you have animals, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I had some family that evacuated, but these houses, like the newer houses, are made to withstand those hurricane winds and all the shit that will be thrown at them. But we still put up shutters and stuff. What I'm always worried about is the power outages and if there's flooding, you know, because that could fuck a lot of shit up. But what I heard is like in Texas, the dirt is, since it's drier, the dirt doesn't absorb the water like it does here. So that's why in Houston it's kind of like a bowl, right? Isn't it?
I don't know. That's how New Orleans is, and that's why I'm from New Orleans, and he won't let me move back.
So flooded, but here it's. I mean, there wasn't any. Like there was some flooding in Manny's house, but it went down like in his backyard was like flooded, but it went down like in a day.
So you guys don't have like any basements or stuff. Like when I grew up in the Northeast, like we always had
basements. In a basement, you hit the water.
Yeah, that's how it is in New Orleans. But you have downstairs, and that's it. You don't have a basement, then you're gonna hit the pipes
below sea level, so you're fucked.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
There's people. I bet there's people who have snakes in New Orleans, and they're just fine.
Yeah, but absolutely.
Definitely have to make adjustments, and I don't feel like making adjustments. That's pretty much.
He won't let me move home.
You're from New Orleans?
I am.
Oh man, it's Mardi Gras in there too, right?
Yes.
Town for savages.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like fucking crazy.
Especially this time of year, especially Halloween, right?
Yeah. Any reason to dress up. We have there was a Halloween parade. There's all kinds of stuff.
All that weird stuff. Don't get it.
It's the best. We like to party. We know how to party.
Joe, were you born in Texas?
No, I was born in New York. So neither of us are from here. So that's we'll probably be out of here within.
Not probably. Definitely.
You don't like Texas?
No.
Why?
This area in particular, I think, isn't a very. There's a lot of really good like snake keepers and herb keepers and stuff like that here. But I mean, as far as Dallas goes, there's not much culture and stuff to. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff to do, just not our kind of stuff to do. I don't know. This all sounds fucking.
Are you from the city or?
No, I'm from like, I mean, that's part of why I wanted to move out of my parents as soon as I could. I'm just from a shitty town. Like, it was either like, you know, the only people in my town left are the people who just like drink to pass time. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. So there's no really anyone getting anywhere. So plus it's expensive for no reason, even though you're upstate without anything to do.
That's funny.
It's still as expensive, still more expensive. So
would you ever live anywhere other than you live now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Florida is awesome, but I hear California is pretty badass, so I want to check that out. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I like I don't like freezing to death. I also I feel like in the snow is, I mean, it's all cool and stuff when you go visit, but living there and especially with reptiles, it's like if something happens, man, you're losing all your stuff.
I'm a colubrid guy. I put them all in hibernation.
That's what we're about to move. Yeah, we're about to move back to the north, and I'm a little scared. I don't do snow, and we're about to move right into.
Where are you guys moving?
We're moving to Philadelphia.
Oh man.
So basically the big thing, at least for what I think about having snakes and stuff like that, is being places where you can get land cheaply or get housing cheaply. So what's your plan as far as Florida goes for that? I mean,
or California.
Florida, I mean, Florida seems like a great place for that, though.
Yeah, no, listen, I would love to live in California, but it is really expensive over there. You know, Florida, as far as Florida, I think I want to move up north more towards Orlando. Because I also want to have like a reptile store or something. And
you feel South Florida maybe too flooded for reptile stores?
No, not in Orlando. In Orlando, like that area, like Central Florida is a big market for reptile people because some of the biggest reptile stores are in Tampa and Orlando and Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
So, like all the reptile people are kind of like in the middle, and there's not really that many good reptile stores over there. But I wouldn't, even if there was, I would still feel like I could go no problem, you know.
Yeah.
The biggest reptile store though, it's here. It's Underground Reptiles, and then there's also the Jungle. They're all like right by me. And then Ben Siegel's new store is in Miami, which is called like Miami.
Okay.
Does Ben Siegel still run the Ben Siegel auctions, or is that someone else?
Well, it's Ben Siegel's partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I won an animal on auction a while ago, but I don't know. It just fucking went away after he put the bearded dragon in his mouth. And then it was exactly that same exact time where I won the animal. And then it just was like a weird thing where I didn't get it. But that's why I was wondering, because it's like, do I still... Well, no, it was like a waiting payment, and I was like, they ended up giving my money back. So it was all good, but I was just wondering, like, do I ever buy from Ben Siegel? Really? It was a bad place to put that out there. But it was
when that happened, from what I heard is that he, like, I don't know, he wasn't taking some medication. I don't know. Not sure. But
I heard that too.
Whatever happened. But every time I've talked to him, he's been a super nice guy. And he's, you know, we'll talk here and there, and he just seems normal. And his partner is really cool too. So I've never had a problem with them. I'm not like one of those guys that are like, oh, you, like, people fuck up. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the fuck was going on. I don't know what was going on over there. Because I heard he was like...
die from a cockroach eating contest.
Yeah, I was there.
What? What?
I mean, that's not his fault. That was just something that happened.
But still, the fact that you're having that, it's not something I would do. That's all.
Yeah, I know. But so he had this
it's not normal, man.
It was he used to have like these Halloween parties. And a couple years ago, he had a contest like whoever could eat the most cockroaches won like I think it was like a leucistic ball python or some shit. And this guy started eating and he kind of like choked on his own throw up or something and fucking passed away. And the worst part about it is that he was trying to get the snake for a friend of his. It wasn't even for him. Yeah.
See, folks, that's why you stay away from ball pythons. Deadly, dude.
No, you stay away from roach eating contests. What the?
Yeah, I mean,
They're those discoids. The discoids are like this big, yo. Like that guy was like boom, 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 boom. No, yo, okay. Oh my god. There's this. Okay, underground reptiles. There's this kid who used to work. Okay, I forgot his name, but he used to. This kid had no sense of like this kid did not give a single fuck. He grabbed. People are gonna flip the fuck out, but he grabbed a rodent, like a little a rat pup. It was a rat pup. So you know those are fucking big compared to like a pinky or something. Dude,
small.
A live rat pup. He put it in his mouth. Before he put it in his mouth, he's like, he said some weird shit like good, like rest in peace or some shit. I don't know. He put it in his mouth and ate it alive.
Oh my god!
The rat pup alive and swallowed it. Didn't even flinch. Didn't even gag.
See, that's some South Florida shit.
That's some South Florida shit, bro.
That's what you see on the news.
People are like on fucking Flocka and just eating zombies.
Bath salts.
Bath salts.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
Oh my, whoa.
Yeah, we reached our 2 hours. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. People are like late. People have been like commenting like late podcast tonight. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel pretty energized after those few beers.
Yeah, I have homework to do.
So, David, is there anything that you want to get out there as far as where to find you and stuff?
Oh, because everyone doesn't know.
Hey, man, we got a few people over here who don't
these are the snake people. I got to tell the snake people.
Exactly.
No, but yeah, well, as far as if you're on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or YouTube, all my social media is always Tikisgeckos. So if anybody's interested in like, you know, learning more about geckos, hop over to my YouTube channel, watch some videos, see if you like them. And then if you guys have any questions or if you're interested in anything, you know, feel free to hit me up.
Is it fair to call you Tiki instead of David?
Yeah. So funny thing is that was my nickname when I was a kid. When I first moved to this town that I'm living in now in Coral Springs, I had a bunch of friends that used to call me Tiki around the neighborhood. And from the neighborhood, it went to school. Like it stuck to school. Then when I started training, it went to the gym, and people at the gym started calling me Tiki. And then I made it into a business. So
now you're Tiki, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. You want to put our stuff out there?
Yeah, anyone who's not our normal followers, who's new, check out Port City Pythons on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. This podcast will be uploaded to SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere you get podcasts by tomorrow. Yeah, so it's not the same as watching the live stream and the video like on YouTube, but it's still good to hear the audio.
Listening right now, you probably not that far. So
yeah, but tell your friends. It's my line. Tell your friends.
All right, David, thank you so much for being out there. Is there anything else you need to get out there?
That's it, guys. Thanks for inviting me over. It was a pleasure meeting you guys and talking to y'all.
Yeah,
awesome,
hope
man.
to like actually meet you in person one day.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe in a reptile show or something.
Yeah.
For sure. Later, guys.